Welcome, everyone. My name is Mary Eleanor Power, and I am the Director of Marketing and Communications for Dalhousie University's College of Continuing Education. I would like to begin by acknowledging that Dalhousie University is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. We are all treaty people. And thanks so much for joining us for today's webinar, The Future of Work. And now I would love to introduce our host for today's webinar, Astrid Seidel. So Astrid holds a Master's of Education and has a degree in social sciences. She's taught students and trained teachers on 4 continents over the last 15 years. Her international experience has strongly shaped her worldview and impacted her research interests, which lie in experiential learning and the advancement of critical thinking skills. Astrid teaches foreign languages at Dalhousie University and works as an instructional designer at the College of Continuing Education. In the spring of 2020, she provided the college with a white paper on the future of work, in which she outlined important trends in the labor market. And so Astrid will be sharing with us some insights from that white paper that she completed. And there will be opportunities for you to interact, as I know Astrid has a few opportunities for us to get engaged. So with that, over to you, Astrid, and thanks very much for hosting today's webinar.
Thank you for the warm welcome, Mary Eleanor, and hello to everyone out there. I know that you are located in different time zones, so I really appreciate it that you're taking the time spending your morning coffee or your lunch break with us. That's wonderful. As Mary Eleanor said, please feel encouraged to use the chat throughout my presentation. Mary Eleanor will keep an eye on the chat and will interrupt me whenever there's questions from your end. So last spring, in spring 2020, I had the pleasure to do some research for the College of Continuing Education at Dalhousie University about the future of work. And I summarized, or I wrote a white paper about my research, which will be shared with you after today's webinar. What I did is I looked at prognoses for the coming decades, 2030 and 2040. What do we need to expect? How will the work change? What changes will we need over the next few years? And the keywords or topics that stuck out the most are the ones I'm listing for you here. You can read about all of them in my white paper. You can see that I highlighted 5 topics for you here today. Because our time is limited today, I would focus mainly on automation, communication, collaboration, inclusion, life learning, and soft skills. But in the end, they are all strongly intertwined, and there's a strongly interdependence between the different topics. So we will touch on the other ones as well. Automation is one of the strongest factors that will affect how we're going to work in the future. In fact, many occupations and workplaces are already seeing an increase in the usage of automation or artificial intelligence, which is great because often they make us much more productive. They help us to avoid hazardous or repetitive work. And machines can be incredibly useful to us. But the number, about 40%, this is a global assumption in most countries in the world, almost half of the jobs will somehow be affected by it. Researchers agree that about 15% of jobs will eventually even disappear because of automation. So naturally, automation can cause strong feelings in individuals because, well, those are high numbers and change can affect people in many ways. And I would just, to get an overview, get an impression where you standing when it comes to automation. So I have a poll here for you, which I would like to share. I'm sharing with you right now. How do you personally feel about the increasing importance of automation? Are you excited, curious, relaxed, nervous, or undecided? What's your gut feeling about it? Oh, there's a lot of activity. I like that. A lot of curiosity. You have half a minute left. Think about it. What is your feeling about automation? Okay, has everyone participated? Then I end the poll now. Mary-Eleanor, we will see the results when I stop it, right? Everyone can see the results? Nice, lovely. Wow. I hope you can see everyone can see them right now.
Mm-hmm.
Nice, lovely. Okay,
Curiosity.
thank you.
That's great.
That's, yeah. Look at that. About half of you are curious about it. This is great because I'm going to talk about this a lot. Excitement, relax, not so much. Nervous, there's nervousness. And some of you have not decided yet. Well, let's see also in the chat how your attitude will maybe change after today's webinar. Let's see. Okay, so a lot of curiosity. That's great. That's very positive. In a wider research project about the feelings, the emotions people associate with automation, people are not so positive about it. They are not, the vast majority of people is in fact really worried about the growing usage or increased usage of computers and that they, or robots, whether they could perform human actions, human jobs. So this is interesting. So also to see the contrast among our group right now and the research that has been done in 2018 in the US. So there's a lot of skepticism, there's a lot of concern. Let's have a closer look at it, where we will face automation and what it will mean for our work, the way we work. What we can see is that all professions, or most professions, will be significantly affected by automation, up to over 60% in the first example. Whether it's administrative jobs or jobs related to healthcare or even teaching at the very bottom. Even for teaching, it's almost a third of jobs that will be affected. And well, I'm teaching online at the moment, and I can tell you that I'm already seeing some, not just digitalization, but even the automation of some tasks, and I love it. I don't need to mark or some of my assignments vocabulary quizzes myself anymore. There is software that does it for me, even feedback on reading or listening exercises, so that's great. So it's already happening, and we will see more of that in the future. Unfortunately, though, if you look at the top of this list, it is mainly professions in the low-income segment that will see enormous change. I'm saying unfortunately because the adaptation to these changes will require a lot of change on our end, as individuals, as employees. So jobs that will disappear, again, about 15% is the assumption. Those are jobs that mainly require lower academic degrees, or that are in professions that are also in the, well, low income segment. So for those individuals in particular, there will be obstacles in order to change careers, or to retrain, or to upskill. So that's something we need to keep in mind, and we will look at a bit today.
Astrid, there was just a question in the chat here from Jackie, and I wonder if I can confirm. I currently don't see the poll on my slides here, but I just wonder if anyone else is currently seeing the poll still covering parts of the slides.
Wow. I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine. Do you have it? Is it there on your screen, Astrid, by chance?
It's not. I'm checking.
Okay.
I'm checking. What did I do? I closed it, I believe.
Perhaps it's gone. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yep, now it's good. And others, in future, there will be another poll later on, and you can click close at the bottom. You can close it yourself off your screen.
Okay.
So
sorry about that.
If you don't happen to close it, then you can close it yourself.
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks so much, all. Apologies, Astrid. Thanks very much for flagging that, Jackie. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Good. Yeah. So the vast majority of jobs will be affected in some way by automation. Oh, there's a question. Yes, please.
No, actually, I believe that was. Let me just see it here. Yes, so apologies. I believe it may have been Jackie who just raised her hand about the issue of the poll.
Good. Fine.
Yeah, but we should be fine to go ahead. Sorry, Astrid.
Okay, sure. Keep me updated. Well, in order to prepare ourselves for the near future, we need to be prepared. As I said, we were talking about different groups of employees and different skill sets. In order to prepare ourselves for the near future, we need to be prepared for a very diverse group of learners or employees with very different needs. In the future, actually already, to be honest, but it will increase in the future, it won't be sufficient anymore to get one degree in your life and to think that this will be enough to maintain or remain in the workforce for decades, or to expect that requirements in our professions won't change. So this means we need to take change in our hands and change the mindsets of all the stakeholders involved in education and in the workplace. So as individuals, we need to understand that we will be required to adapt to a lot of changes, and the educational institutions and employers need to be prepared for this as well. So when we talk about lifelong learning, we should, or I brought up these 4 questions here, and so I'm very curious about learning what you have to say about this, if you agree or if you would like to add something. So feel free to use the chat and to interrupt me. Lifelong learning, why is it important? Well, as we have seen, changes are happening constantly. And in the future, there will be even more skill mismatches between what people have to provide or institutions have to provide and what will be required. In fact, a lot of employees or employers are already complaining that they can't hire qualified staff, or they can't fill certain positions with qualified staff because they think that we are lacking important skills or competencies. We will look into that in a minute. Who is involved in this? Students and graduates, educational institutions, employees, employers, and also the government, who regulates a lot of the certification processes and also the recognition of certificates. And that brings in also an inclusive aspect. It was only yesterday on the CBC News, I read about international graduates or international newcomers to Canada, to Nova Scotia, who are bringing in great certifications, great credentials, phenomenal work experience, but they struggled or still struggling when entering the Canadian job market. So there's still some work to do when it comes to the recognition of international credentials, but also within Canada. Sometimes it's not possible with in specific industries to easily change provinces because you have to undergo another process in which your credentials would be analyzed. So there is room for debate. What do we need to learn? What do we need to teach? Relevant and durable skills. Well, that sounds logical. Obviously, we need relevant skills. And I will elaborate a bit or explain in more detail what I understand as durable skills, or what researchers in the field understand as durable skills. Removing barriers, that again has lots to do with inclusive aspects and with the recognition of others' institutions' credentials, for example. How do we achieve this? How can we achieve this? Well, I guess this is the most interesting question I hope we will have some time to discuss today. We need to rethink existing programs. We need to rethink existing credentials. And I believe it was 2 weeks ago, the College of Continuing Education hosted a very interesting, very inspiring webinar about micro-credentials. Please check that out. There's also a white paper about that. What it means is, or what would, for me in a nutshell, is we should rethink, let's say, 4-year credit programs and look into shorter programs that are competency-based and that can be combined with each other, so that students or employees, can take short-term courses and that are ideally competency-based or performance-based, and therefore meet the needs of the individuals. What do they actually need in order to get promoted, to enter the job market, etc. This is my field, which I want to emphasize: experiential learning. The days are over in which we can succeed by only memorizing content. And if you're teaching online, maybe you may also have seen, I know that many of you are working in the field of education, that quizzes for which you can easily search the answers for on the internet are not really a reliable source to find out what someone is good at. So give people the opportunity to apply the knowledge and to learn in real life scenarios. And we have some examples for that coming. But the first step is to bring people together, bring the different stakeholders together, reach out to each other and learn about different programs, learn how other institutions are doing things, and learn what the needs are the industries need to see from us, and so on. And this, when I think of my own, let's say, LinkedIn contacts or my own environment, I sometimes try to how should I put this? We should make sure that we won't get stuck in our own bubble, because we should talk to people who work in very different industries from time to time, in different segments, with a different education and a different background, in order to understand where we're all coming from. And today's webinar is one of these opportunities where you can reach out to one another and learn a bit about people's opinions and needs. So what are these skills then, these durable skills we are supposed to have, and we are apparently, or many of us are apparently lacking? The Brookfield Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Ryerson University has analyzed and identified the skills and abilities that are needed in occupations for which we expect a growth of at least 19%. And this is what they came up with. Fluency of ideas, meaning creativity, thinking outside of the box, leaving your bubble, just coming up with ideas, not necessarily with the best idea at first, but just let it flow, come up with ideas. Memorization is still relevant, but not as relevant as other skills or competencies. Nonetheless, it's important, of course, to know your content, to know what you're talking about, to know your terminology in order to be good at your job. So let's not forget about that totally, but it's not one of the major priorities. Service orientation. Naturally, we need to know who our customers, who our learners, who our clients are, and what their needs are in order to serve them, and in order to make progress, to come together, to work on this lifelong learning adventure together. Instructing and persuasion are both connected to important soft skills, which are strongly connected to effective communication skills. And this overview here gives you an idea. It's not complete by no means, there's more to it, but it gives you an idea of how much of an impact effective communication can have in order to well, collaborate, but also to sell, to instruct, and so on. But how do we teach these skills? Well, what do we do? How can we achieve these high aims of teaching durable skills?
Hi, Astrid. Sorry,
Yeah.
just to jump in here. Just a question. Can you please share the source for the previous slide, the table with the percentages?
This one?
Yes.
That's from the Brookfield Institute of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Ryerson University. You can find the complete, from 2020, you can find the complete source in the white paper.
Thank you.
Blake Phillips and his team at the University of Waterloo have also done tremendous research in this field, and even changed or have changed their curricula for their accounting and financing students accordingly. So what they did, they learned that their students were not, or the graduates didn't seem to be too well prepared for the actual requirements in the real life job world. So they introduced more real life learning scenarios, or also simulation games, and to give their students the opportunity to practice what will really be expected of them once they enter the workplace. Peer education, peer instruction plays an important role in their program now, but also self-evaluation, reflecting on one's own learning progress, and strong communication skills. I highlighted a few words in this quote that gives an idea of how Phillips and his team are working. And there's one term that sticks out and that surprised me at first. So there's critical thinking, there's adaptability, leadership, and followership. Followership goes hand in hand with the fluency of ideas, because what it means is that we are willing and able to switch roles from time to time and to listen actively what others have to say. So this means a good leader, a good coworker is someone who's willing to listen to ideas and suggestions from someone who usually maybe reports to them. So as a professor, I listen to my students' needs and suggestions and try to incorporate them into my class, into my lesson planning. And this is a very, very important skill we need to see in modern workplaces. People are willing to change and able to change rules from time to time and to, listen to each other, active listening, and make sure that all opinions and voices are heard. During the research, again, this is the Brookfield Institute for Innovation Entrepreneurship at Ryerson University. They analyzed 20 industries that are expected to see significant growth over the next decades. This is where they learned which skills will be needed the most or will be required in the most. You can see that my title, 10 Occupations to Learn From Now, differs a bit from the 10 occupations most projected to grow. And I'll explain to you why. Yes, there are a few, yes, these industries will see growth. However, what the Brookfield Institute did, they analyzed what's already there. They looked at the different programs, what they are teaching and how they are teaching, and how they how these skills and competencies will meet the needs of future jobs. So if you now said, wow, graphic design, that's something I always wanted to go into, please don't sue me if you decide to change careers and pursue graphic design, and if you ended up having trouble finding a job in 10, 15 years. The idea is, or the concept behind it is, let's say in a graphic design program, students learn to be creative, how to come with ideas very quickly, to build prototypes very quickly, and also to self-evaluate and to give peer feedback to other people's prototypes. So maybe a prototype ends up not being the greatest invention in the world, and they will drop the idea and find a new one. My husband has a degree in graphic design, a Canadian degree, and he has worked in the industry for many years. Now he's working in software development. And what he says is that the skills he obtained during his graphic design studies are tremendously helpful for what he's doing now, because he's very aware of the effect the user interface can have on people, the psychological effects of fonts, colors, and shapes. And he learned to think critically and to learn techniques very quickly and to apply them in a context. And while he's in software development now, according to him, I can't confirm that myself, I'm afraid, but once you've learned one programming language, which which are you need to update your skills there very frequently. But once you've understood the concept of how these languages work, it's very easy, apparently, to learn a new one. So it's really about the skills that are taught in these programs. Don't sue me if you want to go into these programs and you had trouble there. So they analyze what's there. That's how they came up with these skills. Here's another example of how requirements and work routines are already changing or will change in the future. So this is about banking and insurance. If you go into a bank today, you see that the tellers there hardly do the math just themselves anymore. They use computers. Often they don't even count the cash, the money anymore themselves. It's all automated. Well, this will even increase. And what we will see, or can already see, is that people who are working in these industries will be required to have even stronger social and emotional skills. So if you think of someone in insurance or someone in a bank, they have to deal with so many different customers, so many different groups. It's a very diverse group of clients. Imagine a young person, a young student applying for student loans, or a young family applying for a mortgage versus a young startup or big corporation. So the staff in our banks and insurance business need to be able to show a high degree in empathy and a wide range of communication skills in order to serve these clients. After so much talk about the future, I'd like to take you back to the present and to the very recent past. The COVID-19 crisis, the ongoing COVID-19 crisis, has had devastating effects around the world in many different fields, on individuals, society, our economy. And Canada saw a dramatic increase in unemployment. Luckily, we could reduce that number again by the end of last year, but it remains to be seen what the next months and years will bring. If there was anything positive to say about the COVID-19 crisis, and then please bear with me, I'm totally aware of how devastating this crisis has been and still is. But if there was anything positive to say, then it's probably that the lockdown situation and the sudden digitalization in fields where we probably would never even have expected it, COVID has really accelerated this process, also the process of upskilling. A lot of people suddenly had to learn how to use video conferencing software. I'm still learning it, as you can tell, and using online devices. So there's been quite an increase. Which industries did better than others during COVID? We know that especially tourism, hospitality industry, they've suffered greatly from COVID, but some industries saw strong increases in growth. Online retail went up. Probably can imagine what companies in particular. I'm not going to name them, but yeah, in many different fields. Workspace solutions. Zoom, the one we're using here today, is expected to see a growth of 600% within the next few months. Supermarkets and local general stores, they were the ones that were allowed to remain open during the lockdown. Hand sanitizing products, of course, you probably remember the first few weeks or months of the lockdown when it was really difficult to find hand sanitizer products. Video games saw a huge increase, and streaming services such as Netflix. Netflix saw 16 million new subscribers in April 2020 alone. So you can see that essential services that serve essential needs, but also online services, saw big growth, strong growth. But what is it that helps businesses and individuals succeed despite being online or being able to serve essential needs? What kind of criteria or abilities or competencies are those? In my immediate neighborhood, the outskirts of Halifax, there is a little cafe. Well, it used to be a little cafe that was supposed to close during the lockdown. And naturally, the owners of that small cafe were very, very concerned, were scared what the future would bring for them. And they were scared that they would face bankruptcy. So what they did very quickly, they changed their entire product line and their services, and even went online with their services. They had never sold homemade bread. They'd never baked bread before, or at least not on a commercial level. And I can tell you the bread is excellent. So they started. They transformed their coffee shop. It's a small business, a small place, a small physical place, into a small general store where people could buy, and still can, products. You can order them online or via the phone and pick them up. So instead of, well, they were panicking, of course, understandably, when the lockdown was announced. But instead of running in circles and giving into the situation, they showed a great degree in resiliency and adaptability and consumer orientation, because they knew that people still needed the essentials, and a lot of people tried also to avoid the major supermarkets, so they prefer to be in a smaller space and to have a pickup service where you don't even have to enter the shop at all. So adaptability, consumer orientation, digital skills, they went online, problem-solving skills, big time. They helped themselves and the community. And this was also great teamwork effort. It's an entire team that's behind this. And as far as I know, they are going to continue this even post-COVID, although we all know COVID will somehow stay with us probably for a long time. So this is what I think a great example of how quickly a small business adjusted to the situation, showing exactly these skills, these durable skills we're talking about. So the good news, in a way, is the future of work is human. As you saw earlier in the slide I shared with you, a lot of American adults are very worried about the automated future. You're not so much, you're curious about it, which is great. But in the end, behind every machine, there's still a human being guiding it or making decisions where to use such machines. And for this, we need to be prepared. In general, Canada, I know this is very small, I do apologize. So this is just to give you an idea. It's an overview about the post-secondary education worldwide. Canada is the red spot on the right. We are doing very well. We have a very educated population. We have very educated and qualified immigrants. And we are world leaders. Canada is a world leader when it comes to post-secondary education. So that's great. That's wonderful. But if we want to keep it that way, we really need to make sure that we are teaching the right skills in the right manner, and that we find a way to reach all our learners. And I'm afraid the implementation, this paradigm shift towards lifelong learning will require some investments. You may wonder, well, these numbers are from 2016. I do apologize, but those are the latest numbers I could get from the OECD. They were published in 2018. We're waiting for the latest numbers for the new edition. But you can see that although Canada is a world leader in the field of post-secondary education, we are not so much a world leader when it comes to the government spending on training. And in fact, we are currently still are below the OECD average. So there is room for improvement. And there is already some improvement. That's why I said, well, the numbers are dated 2016. I hope that the next time the OECD publishes their latest results, we will already see some improvement, because in late 2020, the Canadian government launched some great training benefit programs that are meant to especially serve individuals in the low income sector, but not only. And what it does is there will be, well, training credit, but also leave provisions. So employees will get the opportunity to leave their job for a certain amount of days or weeks per year. And while they're doing that, they will still receive about 55% of their income from the Canadian government. And they have a job guarantee. They have the guarantee that they can return to their old job. So this sounds excellent. There's great potential in this. It remains to be seen how this will be perceived by employees, but also by employers. Will employers be willing to give their employees that time off to do training? What kind of training will they receive? And yeah, and it's I'd say very important on our end to watch this development and to inform all stakeholders involved in this about the existence of these programs. So there's I believe, a lot of potential in that, but yeah, it remains to be seen what the results, the outcome will be. Sorry about that. WIPSI funding. This is a program in Nova Scotia on a provincial basis. But of course, there are similar projects in other provinces as well. So I'm encouraging you to visit both websites. You can find all the resources in my white paper and check out the details about these programs, and also to do some research about funding programs in your province if you're outside Nova Scotia. What I like about this one is that it serves smaller business in particular, and helps them find partners, educational partners that can provide their staff with appropriate training. Yeah, and this is now, I have a question about this, because I wonder how well informed do you actually feel yourselves about the existing programs, the resources that are there for us, also scholarship programs. So I have another poll for you, I hope. Give me a second, bear with me. See, I'm still learning, lifelong learning. Poll number 2. How comfortable do you feel about advising learners, individuals, or businesses about federal or provincial funding programs? very comfortable, comfortable, somewhat, or not comfortable at all. Okay, has everyone made a choice there? I believe so. It's quiet down quite a bit. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now. And this is interesting.
Wow.
That's quite something, right?
Not comfortable at all. Yeah.
So about a fifth of you says very comfortable, which is excellent. That is wonderful. Comfortable. That's great. So we have almost half, basically, almost 40% of you, almost half, are very comfortable, but more than half are not. And I can so totally understand that. I don't blame you. It's a complex system to learn about. There are so many opportunities, but we don't know, many of us don't know about them all, what the criteria are, what groups specifically can apply for them, and how complicated the process might be. The programs I showed you here today, it seems that the application process is pretty straightforward. However, I have not applied for any of these myself yet, so I'm still in the process of learning about that myself. But Mary Eleanor, it seems we have another topic for another webinar here, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That
100%.
might be. Yeah. And it's so important to know about these things, because telling people, oh, you know what, you need to retrain, you need to upskill, you need to improve, need constantly to work and study constantly. Well, we need to provide them with the resources. And for that, we need to know what the resources actually are and how we can access them. So a few recommendations. And this is all open to debate, and I'm very much looking forward to your questions or comments and your ideas, of course. The result of my research so far is we need to network and we need to collaborate in order to be inclusive. And the result of the latest poll we saw is a great example for that. We can learn a lot from each other. We could basically pair you up, and you can teach each other, help each other about how to, what you need to know about these funding programs. So that's why the numbers are so interesting. Encourage and accommodate lifelong learning. Well, that's exactly it. We need to know what the resources are, what the needs are, and how we can achieve that. We need to adjust our teaching, our programs, and make sure that we can serve our very diverse learnership. Focus on durable skills, automation, digital skills, really important. However, digital skills was not on the list among the most important needs and competencies that will be required in the future. So focus on that, on durable skills that will enable people to switch or shift careers. And yes, improve your digital skills. That's definitely a must. It's part of that, but it's not the only thing. Yeah, those are my recommendations so far. I'm open to your questions and recommendations or your input.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. My video is just temporarily stalled here, but it's still perfectly able to moderate some questions in the chat here. So one coming in from Neil, Astrid, what changes are required in the public school system to align with these future workplace results? Really good question.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that question. Thanks. Well, the way I see it, we need to adjust our ways of teaching. Memorization is important. You can't go without important terminology. I'm teaching foreign languages. my students still need to learn the vocabulary. However, they need to learn it and to use it, to apply it. They need to use it in a real life scenario, conversations, role plays. This is on the linguistic level, right? So we need to be a bit more courageous to take risks there and to give responsibility to our students. I would like to see improvements when it comes to self-evaluation and peer teaching. There's a great example from Harvard University, which can be applied at elementary school level. His name is Professor Eric Mazur. He's an engineering and physics professor, and he has done a lot of research about peer introduction and peer teaching. And the results are phenomenal. His students are so much more motivated, and they seem to understand things, complex situations much better. So I'd like to see less teacher activity in the classroom and more student activity. And I want to encourage teachers to trust their students, to show them, yes, I believe in you. I know that you can do it. And that's why I let you try things on your own. I'm there as a guide. I'm there if you have questions, but I want you to try things and collaborate with your peers.
If I can add to that, Astrid, a little bit, and I certainly don't speak from a research standpoint, but more from just recent conversations I've had with our faculty of computer science at Dalhousie, and there's great interest to incorporate more computer science teaching into certainly the high school level, but even at the junior high level. And I think that really speaks to what you were commenting on regarding automation, regarding more digitization. And sorry, I just wanted to add that to Neil's question there, that certainly I think there's a desire to add more of those hard skills into the classroom prior to university.
And there is also great potential for service learning, right? Encourage students to volunteer in their community and to reflect on their experience. And also, in the end, a lot of schools, in a lot of countries, programming languages are part of the curriculum, even at the elementary school level now. In Europe, it's basically, maybe it's a bit of an exaggeration, but in Europe, programming skills are considered the new Latin skills. So once you've learned one language, it might be easier for you to learn another language later.
Interesting. Yeah. Just a question here from Jody Astrid. She says, I'd like to explore more about experiential learning. It can be difficult to locate robust and reliable sources. Can you offer any guidance on this?
Well, for example, I can recommend the results from Waterloo University about experiential learning, because they are performing that. But actually, a lot of programs in engineering and commerce are doing that. We will share also my email address after this, right?
Yes.
Can I share it with you right now if you want?
Yes, absolutely.
You're very welcome to reach out to me, and I'm very interested in opening a dialogue there and help out as much as I can. But there is great evidence from Europe, but also in North America, about the success of experiential learning. Service learning would be one of them. That's my email address.
Great questions. And any more questions here in the chat? And so one here from Caitlin. Oh, that's great. Thanks, Caitlin. No, she's providing her contact information. That's fantastic. Nice. Caitlin is one of our colleagues at Dalhousie, and she works for the Science Engineering Computer Science, the co-op office. And so she's providing her contact details there as well. Thank you so much, Caitlin. That's great with regard to experiential learning.
That's amazing.
Delightful to see our colleagues on this webinar as well and sharing their contact details. Thanks so much.
That's wonderful. That's the first step, networking, getting people together and collaborate. Co-ops in my world, I'd like to see co-ops in all academic disciplines, actually.
Agreed. Any other questions here or comments that anyone would like to share before we officially wrap up? Okay, a question here from Jim. What role do you see for unions in this area?
Oh, they play an important role, very important. They can be great advisors to the industries and to all the stakeholders involved, the education institutions, and to the workers or employees, of course. And they would be a great resource for people to reach out to learn about what funding is there and how well the educational programs that are offered are aligned with the needs of the different stakeholders. Yeah, I'd like to see them taking a strong role in that.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the question, Jim. I'll just say, as we wind down, and Astrid mentioned this, we will be sending a follow-up email later today to all of you who attended today and to all of the folks who registered for today's webinar, which will include a recording, and it's hosted on our YouTube channel, so you can see the micro-credentialing webinar that Astrid mentioned, as well as many others that we've hosted throughout the fall. So I'd encourage you to explore that YouTube channel. As well, we'll have a link to the white paper that Astrid prepared on the future of work, as well as her contact information. And so that's fantastic. Oh, that's great. Jody's saying outstanding workshop. Thanks so very much for hosting. That's fantastic. Thanks very much, Jody, for sharing that. Really appreciate it. And thank you so much, Astrid, for sharing these insights. Really, you know, such an important topic to continue to discuss and continue to monitor. And so really appreciate you taking the time to prepare this webinar, and thanks so much everyone for joining. We would encourage you to check out future webinars that we have coming up in the month of February, and we'll be running them. We'll be running many webinars throughout the next few months. So please make sure to watch out for new ones that are coming up. Thanks so much, Astrid, again. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks for hosting this, Mary Eleanor. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Astrid. All right, take care, everyone.